Hello, this is Dr. Brockmeyer, and I'm going to give some advice and tips as to how you can approach doing this course that I hope will be helpful in achieving the successful completion of it. First off, uh, one thing that probably can't be overemphasized and will uh, be useful immediately, I mean right now, is that when you do take a review, a video, including this video, in this course, you should make it a habit, or any course. I know you're just starting out in some of your studies here, but in any course, take notes of what is said during the video. If you and I were in a classroom, which is something you may have had, or a meeting for that matter, something which with you have had some immediate experience, you'd be taking notes about what was said, what you're going to do, um, what to follow up on, those kinds of things. And you'd be doing that even if it was a Zoom meeting and you knew that there was a recording being made of what was said, which is, of course, what we're doing right now. The great thing about notes is, first of all, there's evidence to show that if you write down what you see and hear, you learn it more deeply. And so, just kicking back and treating this like a TV show or a reality TV show, you'll learn something and you'll probably remember some of it. But the way to learn it more deeply and remember it better is to take notes about what you're seeing on this screen. The other thing that it will do, especially when we get to the content of this course or the content of any college course, is if you take notes and 2 weeks from now you know that there was a video that you watched, but you're real clear about the precise point that was being made or the fact that was being conveyed, and you want to go review that video, you have two choices. You can either take a look at the notes you've made, especially if those notes include the timer that's running when you look at the video. You can look at the notes you made first. And then if that still doesn't clarify it sufficiently to answer a question in a test or make a point in an essay or a internet post, you can go to that specific point in the video to review it. If you haven't taken notes, and if the notes don't put down periodically where in the video that topic is discussed, that bullet is discussed, then guess what? How do you review it? You review the whole video, 20 or 30 minutes, in order to find that 10 seconds of information. Not a very effective use of your time, and I would venture to say that if you did that once or twice, you'd say, I'm not going to look at that video. It takes too long. Whereas if you have notes, then you can focus in on what was said in that video and how you can use it with your immediate need. So, take notes, even of this video. And if you haven't arranged to do that before you turn the video on, pause the video, go to the extra effort to take advantage of this advice or this tip. Okay, so what are we going to do in this course? We're going to take a look at some of the psychological background and foundations in human communication. We know that there are other species who communicate. Matter of fact, I was reading an article recently that it turns out that scientists have viewed how human brains work when they're going about a decision or task, and they've also looked at the brains of honeybees. Now, the brain of a honeybee is about the size of a small piece of pebble that's stuck in your shoe. But it turns out that there are some similarities in how honeybees communicate. This was new knowledge, and how humans um, make decisions. It was thought that there was a sharp difference. And in fact, there is a sharp difference in most decisions that are made by entities, species other than human. Dogs don't decide that that they want a treat. They and we'll look at some of this. Their psychology is that it's a conditioned response. You know that Pavlov's dogs, where for several days somebody rang a bell and then fed the dog, and in anticipation of and during feeding the dogs salivated, and the Pavlovian response has been proven to be a conditioned response, in that they stopped feeding the dog, but when they rang the bell, the dog salivated, drooled. So it isn't a dog deciding, oh boy, we're getting ready to eat here, I better get the juices flowing. And one of the main things that separates humans from all the other species is the richness of our communication. We not only communicate like I am through language, but we also use language to form our thoughts. I mean, we might not even make a sound, but if you stop and think about it, even those thoughts that you wish you could get out of your head and go back to sleep, those are thoughts in a language, a communication methodology. Those of you who speak more than one language, perhaps for whom English is not your first language, after a while, when you're in an environment where English is used to communicate, you'll notice that your dreams are also communicated in English. But when you go, for instance, you go visit relatives, you go back home, and after a while, and you speak in a different language, after a while you'll notice that your dreams also absorb that language. And more importantly, we have a more sophisticated way of communicating through nonverbal communication methodologies. And part of the benefit of watching this video is that you get to see and hear some of the nonverbal aspects of my communication to you, because you hear my inflection and you hear me say, this is really important, instead of just reading it. And you also see me bob my head when I do that. Those are fairly fun foundational parts of nonverbal communication. But our body language, the way we look, sometimes if we're fibbing, we look up and to the left. That's been shown to be a tell for somebody who's getting ready to lie. But in any event, we're going to explore some of that in an introductory sort of a way. So, what are some tips about how we're going to go through this process? First of all, the first thing that I would strongly recommend you do is cruise through the entire course. Click on links. Open up assignment things, even though they aren't in the first week, so that you know that what you do and how you do it in the first week, how you're going to have to apply that to what you do or learn in the fifth week. To some extent, this note-taking business requires that you know where you're going in order to know what to make a note of. So during that process, take a look at the entire course, what some of the references are, how long some of the readings are. And then you'll know, and you won't be tempted, as we all are, you won't be tempted to say, oh, I'll read that later. And you'll go ahead and do a discussion board. Whereas in order for the discussion board to have any quality, you have to have absorbed some of the content that was assigned before you were given the discussion board to use. The discussion board is to show me and what you demonstrate your level of knowledge, but it's also a discussion where you will enlarge your knowledge by discussing the topic with your classmates, who will emphasize or bring to bear even something outside of the content based on their experience. And so we all learn from one another. That's the power of a discussion board. So, one of the things that you can also do is figuring out what it is why you're doing this stuff that you are going to be doing for the next 5 years. 5 weeks? What are the deliverables? And so what should you pay specific attention to? And why are the learning activities those specific learning activities? Well, if you know what the learning objectives are, then you know what the activities, how they serve to meet that objective. The other thing to remember, of course, is the technique, the process is that you ought to log on to this course every day. Sometimes that means you're going to log on twice a day, because you're going to log on and you're going to see that I've posted an announcement, or one of your classmates has made a suggestion, or you're going to look and see what you have to do that week, and you think, oh boy, I'm going to have to come back after the TV show is over, or the kids are put to bed, or after I've picked up people from soccer. I'm going to have some quiet, concentrated, focused time. So you log back on and then you do that work. But if you log on every day, you'll know what you can, or more importantly, need to do that day. If you miss some days that you log on, that's okay. But if you log on like in a week, you say, well, I only have to participate X times in a week. If you log on every day, you get to pick and choose which days you participate, and which days you make a contribution, and which days you don't have to. So you don't get caught at the end of the week scrambling to do some stuff that if you'd logged on sooner and identified this, you wouldn't be scrambling. You'd be doing it in a thoughtful, and here's the important part, high quality manner. Remember that we are discussing these, although we're really doing some word processing, we're discussing through text. The tool allows you, if you wish, to discuss it other ways. You can load up something that you've read and summarize it. You can, that's on topic. But most importantly is the discussion part. Discussions occur when somebody says something, somebody else says something in response, and then offers another idea, and then somebody else takes a look at all of that. They've been listening probably, because that's the discussions we're used to, and they offer, oh yeah, but have you ever thought, they offer another idea. So that's why discussion boards in this course not only encourage but give you a higher grade if you spread your discussion posts over a series of days. I'll bet, even though I've said that a third of you will do a discussion board. You'll make all your posts in one day. Knock them out. Get them out of the way, because I got other things to do. Well, you're not going to do as well as somebody who actually does a discussion board instead of an announcement board, where you come on and you announce something. That's the difference between an announcement and a discussion. An announcement doesn't encourage a reply. It's, oh, okay, I'll do that. So log on every day and you'll assume control of your learning. The fundamental thing in terms of my relationship with you, our relationship is, and the relationship you have with your classmates, is that you, as individuals, each of you is responsible for your learning. I'm not responsible for your learning. My job is to help you learn. But it is, you are responsible for that learning. And unless you log on and deal with the learning activities, you're going to fail to uphold your responsibility. So The other thing to remember throughout the course is if you have a question, ask me or ask a classmate. They might be able to tell you, oh, what's the assignment for? How many times are we? Those kinds of process questions. But you can also ask me, and a couple of times I'll give you a straightforward answer. But if you ask me, if any of you or each of you ask me questions that I know you can find the answer on yourself, because remember, it's your learning. After, I don't mind, you forget, you're in a rush, and so you say, well, when does this due? Or how do I do a substantive post? Or those kinds of things. Or I got held up in the emergency room last night because I had to take one of my children to the emergency room. I know that that's more important than the deadline you had at midnight last night to do something. So if you take it'd be best if you take the 5 seconds that it would take to use your phone, your mobile device, to say, I need an extension on the deadline, I'm in the emergency room, send. Then you won't be penalized for being late if you tell me before it's due. If you tell me after it's due, and it's a reasonable reason to miss a deadline, I may not deduct as many, if at all, points for it being late. If, however, it's the 4th time in the 5 weeks we're together where your uncle has died, then that says to me that you think you don't respect my intellectual ability, and so you'll repeat a lame excuse, thinking that I won't realize it. So, if you log in and you give me some advance notice, you'll optimize your performance. If you don't log in and you don't give me some advanced notice, you might or even probably will pass, but it won't be the best you can do. Okay, this has gone on long enough. The hot topic this so far in higher education, as well as every other place, is artificial intelligence. There's a policy that University of Phoenix has written down and is available, all 4 paragraphs of it, about the proper use of artificial intelligence in doing your schoolwork. Just like you're at work, some of you may do stuff that where the tool of artificial intelligence will make your performance better. So you're not just like you're not prohibited from using a calculator in this course, you're not prohibited from using artificial intelligence. What you are prohibited from doing is using artificial intelligence and then making it look like it's your intelligence. So if you use bottom line of this policy is if you use artificial intelligence, you have to attribute it. You have to give a citation when you got it, what you asked, and so this is the answer for. And it would be even better if you told me where it got it, but we know that artificial intelligence is not quite that sophisticated yet. Wikipedia is. So used to be in the olden days, you were said don't use Wikipedia, and the reason is that anybody can go on Wikipedia and say anything. And they have the Wikipedia police who go along every now and then, it's voluntary, and correct it. I read one entry on Wikipedia that said, oh, that's too bad, Cher died. Well, she didn't. So if you cited Wikipedia as the source for telling me that Cher died, you'd be wrong. And you would not only be penalized, or you wouldn't earn as many points as if you told me what was true instead of what was not true. So, and Wikipedia now is useful, but those of you who use it regularly know that if you go to the end of the Wikipedia article, There's a whole list of real references from where that information was obtained. And if you use Wikipedia to kind of jumpstart things, brainstorm, that's what AI is, a lot of what AI is being used for in business, in the real world. As long as you go and take it from Wikipedia, go to that reference and check it out, make sure that it's correct, that Wikipedia has said it accurately, and you could also use that reference instead of Wikipedia. Enough about references. Don't plagiarize. It's not worth it for our relationship, because, if you're going to get caught, you're going to get dumped. You just wasted your time and money taking the course. Plagiarism is grounds for, number one, refusing to accept the assignment in which is plagiarized. But most importantly for you, you're going to think you know something, and then 5 years from now, you're going to say that, and you might get fired for saying it wrong, or what you said caused a bad thing to be decided. And you're not getting an education if all you do is tell me what somebody else thinks. I'd like to know that you know what somebody else thinks, but I'd also like to know what you think about what somebody else knows or thinks. So, enough of that. Best of luck. 3 things to remember: take notes, ask questions, and discuss ideas. Now let's go do our job.